Hello and welcome back to another update video. The main thing is all this lining. I've got this done in the last few days, and it was framed before and insulated on this wall, and then these walls were just framed. So I'll show you those in a second, but I've gone for plywood, 12mm ply, and the idea is have something that looks good without needing any paint, have something that I can attach things to whenever I want to, and something that gives a bit of a warm cast, a warm reflection of light back into the room. I've been inspired by a couple of workshops in recent months. Bill Baggins has a lovely big workshop and it's all ply lined, and you go in there and it feels kind of warm and homely and comforting and cocooning. Whereas the rest of my workshop is this kind of brown brick, which is horrible and feels bad. So, and also Inheritance Machining, he has a similar style of wall covering, and it looks really good, feels really good. And yeah, so I've done this little nook where the mill lives and all the way down that wall, which is the side of what I'm now calling the welding area. So that goes all the way to the corner, and it's great, I'm really happy. If you look upwards, you can just about see there is a section about 200mm tall, about a handspan tall, that needs to be panelled in, and I need to work around these beams, and I need to figure out what the junction between the wall and the ceiling is going to look like, because I want to make sure that I'm not letting noise in and out of the clean room and in and out of the house via the, in and out of the gap between the bricks and the timber interior for the rest of the house. I'll work it out, but I've done the bulk of this. Now, pretty happy. There's a few finishing touches. I need to put trim strip. I left the ply 20mm off the floor so that if there is any more floods in here, and that there's likely to be, then it's only the bottom plates that get wet, not the wall sheeting. And if I have to change a bit of architrave, I'm not too fussed. That's fine. And I need to put an aluminium angle strip on here just to cover that corner and protect it a bit. But yeah, I'm really happy that I got all that done. So this is the next thing. I had actually done this by the time I did the last update video, but I just, it slipped my mind and I forgot to show it. But basically I've created a storage shelf type thing. It's kind of 1 metre and a bit deep and 1 metre and a bit tall. And it's connected to the roof rafters above, just bolted through in these locations at the top. Each one is bolted, and yeah, it's very strong, and I've just loosely laid a piece of form ply on the top for now and just using it as a shelf. But this freed up my floor and got loads of wood off the floor, and I'm very happy about that. It's going to be useful. And in fact, I'm going to extend it on down in that direction to go all the way to the end wall there. And on this end, this post here delineates the end of the grinding room when the grinding room is framed, and then I'll tie this in with that so that there's an end panel there or something, perhaps there. I also did a bit of work on a friend's ute, and he had a tray on the back that was mostly metal tray on the back of this ute, but the base was wood. It was form ply, and it had a coating of aluminium sheet on top of it, which held the moisture in, and over the years, obviously, it got rotten and worn out. So he needed a crane adding to it so that he can move his e-bike around, which is quite a heavy unit. But when we were taking the tray off and the lining of the tray, we realised, okay, that's rotten. We've got to fix that. We've got to replace that. Then I did some work on. So we did all that. Then I did some work on reinforcing the frame of the ute. adding some 10mm steel plate sections and also some RHS or square tube and some other 12mm bits of plate just to tie everything together in the back and make it super strong, super rigid. And the MIG welder came in very handy for that. Got the ute modified, we've got the crane mounted, and I also got some hold downs attached to the headboard of his ute, and also some lightweight ones that just go through the timber just to make sure the empty water container he carries sometimes doesn't float away. So yeah, that was a bit of paying work and gave the MIG welder a bit of exercise, and that was good fun. This is the MIG welder in question. It's one of the old style ones with a big transformer inside. And if you've done MIG welding before, you know it's very simple. You've just got wire feed and voltage, so there's not much to control. I'm using it on a mix of argon CO2, and it's been good fun. It's nice and quick. I'm used to using TIG. That's what this machine is all about. But I've done a lot of MIG in the past. I did quite a bit of paying work 10 or 12 years ago using a bigger MIG machine than this, a 350 amp one. And yeah, I'm quite comfortable with the process, and it's very convenient. Sometimes you just need to squirt out some beads and get it done in quick fashion, and this is the tool for the job. And while we're over at this section, this is the other bit that I've lined. So this is all insulated with green foil board, which is polystyrene with foil both sides, and then again 12mm ply. And I did do some tests with the infrared temperature gun, and I measured the heat coming off the bricks and the heat coming off the wood the other day when this whole wall was in full sun on the other side. This is northeast, so this gets all the morning sun. And it was a 10 degrees Celsius, 10 degrees difference. So this is really going to cut down extra heat during the summer. I think it's going to be quite a benefit. It's going to be nice. And hopefully, the main thing I want to do is cut down the cold in the winter, or keep the heat in, what little bit of heat there is. Rusty thinks I'm going mad because I'm talking to myself again. Or so he thinks. You're a good boy. Good boy. This is the next thing to talk about. This is my surface plate stand. I've been talking about this for a couple of years and never actually got round to doing it yet. Last time I think you saw the surface plate, it was perched on the end of this bench. This is 5mm thick, 25 by 25 angle. It's MIG welded, and I've ground the welds on the corners just to make everything flush. Welded it inside and out. This base here was a pre-existing, it was actually the base part of a pharmacy display for sunglasses, I think, and I harvested that, salvaged that over 10 years ago. And 2 or 3 years ago I discovered, it's the same size as the surface plate, I should use it as the base. But when I came to do it, these casters are all connected into riv nuts, and the casters needed taking apart and cleaning, and the riv nuts were spinning in their opening, so it was a pain. I had to basically use the impact to take these casters out, and then I did 3 small MIG welds around the riv nuts to just make it part of the frame, ground it off flush, bolted them back in, gave everything a coat of paint, and the next piece that needed for this is a piece of ply to sit on this inside shelf, and then I think for the time being that's where the hardness tester is going to sit. There's a video about this. It's the Vickers micro hardness tester that Ian gave me. Good friend of mine that's local. He gave me the shadow graph, and he gave me some wood in the past, and he gave me this hardness tester. So I know it's been on the back burner for a long time, but this and the hardness tester and the surface plate stand all live in the clean room now. So, and once I get a bit more house renovation done upstairs, I've got somewhere for electronics and printing stuff to go. So that will truly become for measuring and amateur engineering. By the way, this does not have the 3-point support. It doesn't have the airy or bezel points underneath it. It's just sat on this rim. It's 600 by 600 by 100 mil thick, and I really don't think, for the precision of work that I can get to, that there's any noticeable deflection. When it's supported around its entire perimeter, I don't think there's any noticeable deflection in the plate itself. It's going to be hard to measure that. But if I do feel that I need to put it on 3-point support, I can easily add something later if it turns out to be a problem. That's probably it as far as work done. The only other thing that happened this week was a kind of a mini adventure. A friend of mine came over to bring some an electronics job that needed repairing, and he came in a Lotus clone made by PRB in Australia, Lotus 7, and he said, let's go out for a drive. We went outside and the car wouldn't start. So it took 10 minutes to get into the car and get the seatbelt to fit around my not so small midsection, and we turned the key and it just went clunk. Nothing happened, you know. So we spent the afternoon after that trying to charge the battery, jump start it, check the battery out, realised there was some bulging on the battery. It was an AGM battery on its side, basically a motorcycle style battery. So we went and got a new one, got it into the car, went and turned the ignition back on. I gave the battery a charge, connected it into the car, turned the ignition on, and it read fine and it started fine, but then the voltage was up over 16 volts on the dash. So obviously the regulator in the alternator's gone. So at that point we decided it's going to be easier, rather than trying to get underneath it and change the alternator out, it's going to be easier to, he hired a car trailer, and I took him half an hour that way and he came half an hour back this way to collect his tow vehicle. So what was supposed to be a joyride became a job. But that's all good. I'll get to have a go in it another day. This is that electronics job, by the way. It's actually a controller, power supply and controller for a sim racing setup. And there's a 4-pin DC jack here, which looks a little bit like a mini DIN, which is what is used for S-Video, but it's not. These have thicker pins, and they're actually current carrying. And this whole connector has a 7.5 amp current rating. So, but there has been some shorting and or at least some arcing and some broken contact and so on. So this is going to get changed, and this is going to get changed, and we're going to start from there and see what happens. These are made by Kycon, Kycon, and I forget the codes. I think it's something like KPPX. That's the series, and then there's a J or an S for jack or socket, and on the socket there's also an S suffix for the shielded component. So yeah, those are on order. They're coming in the next few days, and these will get fixed and sent back to Mark. So just in case you thought we didn't have enough Rusties, we got Rusty in Belgium, and we got Rusty on the floor here next to me, and we've also got one in the UK now. This is Rusty Inventions. He's a chap on YouTube. He's got a good channel, and he's doing lots of different repairs and things. And he got in touch with me and said, do I want some stickers? And he wrote some very nice things about my channel on his on the letter that he sent to me. So thank you very much, Rusty. These will go on the sticker board, and hopefully everybody watching this can give your channel a check and a look. Okay, so the next part was a company called Gruen got in touch with me. They're in China, and they make, it seems like they only make carbide cutting tools from what I can see on the website. And here's a selection that they sent to me. There's an aluminium, one for aluminium, uncoated, 3mm diameter, 50mm long. They're all on the smaller side. They go up to, I should show you them like that really. They go up to 5 or 6mm. That's a roughing mill, 6mm for steel. We've got a
extra hard one, I guess with that coating, 2 flute, which would be for steel, and a 4 flute, 1 for steel, and a 4 flute, 1 for steel, in slightly different diameters and things. And they offered these to me. They said, we're willing to send you them for free. All you'd need to do is just pay the shipping. So I did that, and they were here very quickly. And yeah, great deal. So I'm gonna use these in a project video when the time comes, and give my opinion of them. They haven't asked me to do that. They just wanted to send them to me as a demo, as a demonstration to me of their product. But I wouldn't mind sharing my opinion of them when I've used them. So that's what I'm going to do. This is the next thing that arrived. This is the 2 horsepower single phase 2 pole, which means it's 2800 RPM, 2 pole induction motor that I've got for my belt grinder. And all I need to do is make a new plate where it mounts up. This diameter is correct, and the key is the right size, and this fits onto the pulley I made. There are terminals in here that allow me to change rotation, so that's very easy. This will wire straight into the safety switch that I've provided on the machine. So really everything is compatible except for the foot mount. And the reason that's not compatible is because I sized the plate on the grinder to suit a very old style of motor that's not really very standard. So if I ever changed motor, I was going to have to change that plate anyway. This is an 80 frame, I believe. I think it's an 80 frame motor, so that should be, if this ever needs changing in future, it'll be easy to do. I should say that these guys are called Conon, C-O-N-O-N. They're easy to find on eBay in Australia at least. And I've used these guys before to buy a motor very similar to this for my table saw. And that was, I reckon, over 5 years ago. And that table saw gets regular use. And the motor's still going strong. So I reckon it's probably closer to 10 years ago. Yep. And very happy with it. And I'm hopeful this will be just as good. These were the next arrival. These are used, believe it or not, or at least I bought them second-hand, and I don't think they've been used, but they were an exceptionally good price. I paid for these for what you'd pay for one of them locally. And I know from experience, because I've just put very similar wheels onto my engine crane, that each one of these is rated to 350 kilograms. And when you've got a set of 3, 4 or more casters, you always rate it based on 3, because that's the minimum that can form a plane. And on uneven ground, which is quite likely everywhere you go, 3 casters are going to be taking the load of your project. So 350 times 3, these have got a 1050. This set is a 1050 rating, which is pretty useful. They're pretty good size. They're 125 mil, something like that, by over 50, still 50. So they have the brakes that press on the tyre, but they don't stop rotation. But I still think they're going to be very useful. And they have grease points for the bearings and for the hub axle thing. So yeah, decent casters. This was the other thing that came this week. It's a piece of 89 by 89 steel, 5 mil thick, 3.2 meters long. And I think that could make a fantastic set of legs for the MCO lathe stand when the time comes. And incidentally, just below it is a couple of heavy steel angles which are destined to become part of the base of the milling machine. I've got a bit of a list here, so I don't forget anything, but I also need to mention that these are just candidates. These are things that might happen next. I've basically got to decide what to work on, and I've got to be careful not to promise anything, because the moment I promise I'm going to do something, that guarantees that it doesn't get done. So these things might happen next. I've got the bench, and this bench
was set up for woodworking. I said this in the last episode, set up for woodworking, and it's now changed to be a metalworking oriented bench. And just there is the metalworking vise that I've already put on it. The truth is, in order to be useful for metalworking, it needs work. It needs more work, and I might even make this into a bit of a project video finishing this thing. Just an example of what it needs. The vise itself needs paint, needs some aluminium jaws, it needs the handle that I've made to be shortened. There's a bit of play in it that I might try and take out, don't know, but needs work. The top is great, but I might actually stain it a darker colour, something closer to this tone, maybe even a bit darker than that, something a bit chocolatey maybe. The base needs levelling feet because it has a wedge under 1 foot right now, and I want it to be nice and level and nice and secure. And I've got the shelves that I'm trying to put in. And these bits of steel are all mitered angle, and these are all sized, and they become the frames for the shelves below the wood bench. And of course the whole thing will need painting and so on and so on. So there's a few little jobs there, that none of which are really difficult, but Rusty's sniffing under the garage door. There must be a dog walking past or something. Hey, don't do that, don't do that. So anyway, the bench needs finishing, and it'd be really nice to get these drawers on those shelves underneath, and so on. The grinder's another obvious candidate. I really need to change this motor. The motor's now arrived, so all I've really got to do is cut this plate off and this spacer, make a new plate, get this back together, and then this is a usable, reliable tool again. And I have mentioned it before, but this wooden shelf is going to go. It takes up floor space, which I would like to reclaim. And I would like to put a high level shelf across. Now that this is lined, this is a good chance to do it. Put a high level shelf across here and put the woodwork tools. So they're still arm's reach, but I get a lot of floor space back. Hello, hello. Good boy. And another candidate for one of the things I could work on next is this quick change tool post. I've got a BXA size tool post with a bunch of holders and a bit of chromoly here waiting to become a new post that allows me to mount the quick change on this lathe. All I've got to do really is put a couple of threads on here that suit the nut and the thread into the compound. But while I was working on this, I discovered a couple of other things that need a bit of attention. The compound gib has the end snapped off, the end that can retract and push, and so it gets wedged in there. So I don't know yet how I'm going to fix that, but it sort of seems tied in with this, and so I've been I've been putting it off. But it does need doing. It's the next thing to do to the lathe, and I'd like to get these tools mounted on a holder up the top like I had on the last lathe, and get this as functional and as ready to go as I can, because I love this lathe. It's been really good. I spent a lot of time getting the frame made and the motor mounted and the VFD wired in. So there's not too much to go, but there are more jobs to do on this, and it'd be nice to fully commission this machine. This is my daily driver. I don't use it daily, but it's my main machine as far as the lathe goes. And having these made an enormous difference to the last lathe I had, so I'm looking forward to having the same functionality on this lathe. Another option for things I could work on is carrying on this framing and lining throughout this wall and take it to the next corner. That would be very useful to do. But here is a roller door. This thing lets noise in and out, and it lets heat in and out. And even though I've made an extended draft excluder for the top wedge shape bit, where there's a big opening, I made a big draft excluder out of a couple of pool noodles I've joined end to end with some tube in between. That works great, but it really doesn't work 100%. It sort of does 90% of the job. Basically, I want to get rid of this roller door. and I want to frame in this opening and put 2 standard exterior doors into the opening. So I can just walk through with an ordinary door handle arrangement, swing the door in, walk in. That would make it easier to get materials in and out. It'd make it easier to answer the door to people that are visiting the workshop. And it'd mean I could eventually blank off, brick up that doorway that's there, and that gives me more storage in here. I've got some 820mm doors, and I'm going to extend them by 100mm each side with some hardwood. And that gives me an opening of 2.04 metres, which is enough to get the back half of my ute in, or my trailer. And I'd only have 200mm of framing each side. I don't want to go wider than that with the doors because I think it'd be rough on the hinges. And they're heavy doors to start with before I widen them. So I'll be using 3 hinges per door. And I've got a deadbolt and all that kind of stuff lined up. I do need to do something about the floor because I want the doors to swing inwards, and there's a slight fall here. So I may even have a removable sill piece. And that way, during normal use, you just step over the sill like you do when you come into your house. But if I need to use the pallet jack or anything that's very heavy and needs to roll in and out, I can remove that sill piece. And it's just a smooth transition from inside to outside. That's the idea. If you've got any suggestions or if you've done anything like this before, please let me know. I've had lots to do with windows and doors in the past, but it's the first time I've specifically worked on something like this. So that's an option. I could work on that next. And I'm hesitant to show this bit because it's probably the ugliest part of the workshop, but you know, this is real. This bit is the grinding room that I've talked about before. I've shown you in here. It's a little bit of a storage room as well for some materials, and it's a mess. But one of the things I could do is, you see this bit of freshly framed and lined stuff here. This is all arranged so that this is in a plane, and I will be able to frame in this doorway, frame in this, and sheath or line this in a way that these posts disappear fully, and it will just be one continuous straight line. So this part of the workshop will look great to the rest of the workshop, and it will keep all the grinding dust contained in this room. I could either frame the front for now and frame the rest later, or I could frame the lot. And this bit here where there's a retaining wall, I want to have a cupboard that's sort of 1 arm deep so that I've got some storage space in there. There's plumbing above, so I definitely need to make sure that any ceiling that I put in here is removable. But yeah, I've got plans to change the table that the grinders are sat on. I want to have a wall-mounted shallow arrangement where it's a little bit more squished up, and the sandblaster rotated and on this end, and I should have room in here for my belt grinder then, hopefully. So yeah, these are not concrete plans, these are not promises, but these are some of the things that could happen next. I'll just reiterate that just in case. But I'm kind of enthused and excited, and I'm getting back on the horse as far as workshop progress goes. And I'm feeling better and better about how the arrangement of things in here is going. Love all the new space. It makes using full sheets of plywood and things like that easy, or big welding projects easy. And when my friend was here last week, and we were, we had the side of his ute, we also cut holes in the side as an access port for a water container and things like that. All this space just made that very easy. So, yeah, those are the options, and if any of those stick out as particularly interesting to you, let me know. Or if I've missed anything, let me know. What else can I say? Don't forget to join us on Discord. Chirpy keeps telling me off because I keep forgetting to mention it. We've got a Discord server. If you want sort of better contact with me, or be able to chat in real time about things, or see sort of photos and things even between the update videos, then Discord is the place to do it. And also you'll get to chat to everybody else that's interested in the same sort of stuff. So it's the main rule is that it's a bit family friendly. So can't really speak like a sailor on there, but just because I don't want to exclude anybody that doesn't want that stuff. So yeah, So yeah, try and join us on Discord if you want to chat more, and hopefully see you there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.